everybody. So did you hear about the new rule? No cell phones? Did you hear about that? No. No? That's not gonna. Okay, so in my mind, I think we're in for a treat. We had a little conversation beforehand, and we talked about like what would everybody want to get out of a presentation like this or a conversation like this? And to me, like if I was one of you guys, I'd want to hear about one of these fantastic brands like Warby Parker, Whole Foods, and Chick-fil-A, who are doing so well. Like if we can get a peek under the hood of what these guys are all about, we're going to learn a lot of things, right? Okay, so I thought the first thing, and I learned this lesson earlier today, but I think one of the first things that we should do is brief introduction. You guys already know who I am. So here we're going to take it to Sarah Apgar.
All right, so I'm Sarah Apgar, and thrilled to be here. It's my first Retail Spaces, so that's exciting. And as you saw probably in the booklet, if you read my quick bio, I have a military background. So I arrived at a startup company on the verge of bricks and mortar retail from a very atypical path. I was in the Corps of Engineers on the active duty side for 5 years, and served in a construction combat engineering setting, deployed once overseas to Mosul in northern Iraq, did a lot of reconstruction of roads, airfields, schools, and so forth in that region. And came back, went to grad school, and then looked for a startup. Didn't know I'd find something in my field. And it was the right place, the right time. Warby was just looking at the notion of bricks and mortar retail as a new strategy and sort of a new vertical within the business for the very first time. So I joined the company at that stage and then have led the retail expansion over the last 3 years since then. So I'm just excited to be here and learn from all of you, and really humbled to be up here and share a little bit about Warby.
All right, John McCleskey, I dare you to top that.
Yes, sir. I was about to say it. Sarah and I have had multiple conversations the last 2 years. I had no idea. That's like amazing. So John McCleskey, I'm the Vice President of Restaurant Development for Chick-fil-A. I've been with the company for 22 years. When I came on board, Chick-fil-A was primarily all malls. We had a handful of freestanding restaurants, and seen the company grow to what it is today. So that's what I do.
I'm Gabrielle. You guys probably haven't heard about me as Gabby. But I've been with Whole Foods for 21 years. I am currently the design director of the Northern California region. And I started out as a customer service rep and answering phones and taking returns from lots of different kinds of people, and I eventually was a sign maker and store artist and art director and creative director. So I've seen the company go through many different phases, and right now is really exciting for Whole Foods. They've been around for just over 30 years, so we'll see where the next 10 to 30 years goes, how it goes.
Awesome. So I told you, right? Good team here. Okay, so we left this slide up because I spoke about it earlier today. And I think that, without a doubt, and even through some of the other conversations that we heard today, that we're in for a consumer mindset shift. It's already happening. You can already see the wave. You know it's going to hit your business if it hasn't already in some kind of big way. So I thought a kickoff question for you guys would be, what are each one of your companies doing to address the consumer shift?
Well, the good news about that question for me is that people have to eat. And so it's kind of a built-in need, and that helps us a lot. And they need to see, and they need to shop for groceries too. But for us, it's a need, and people are in a hurry. And so for our brand, it's more about staying true to being QSR. And in that arena of QSR, we want to know what the dynamics are there for food preferences, for what kind of service we can provide customers, what kind of technology do they want to use to engage with Chick-fil-A. And so we're pretty heavy in the development on all three of those phases. On the technology side, we're really invested heavily right now in creating what we want to be the best, easiest to use mobile app. So you can You can get a catering order, you can order ahead, you can pay with it, you can find out where all our locations are. We want to make it as easy for a customer to engage with Chick-fil-A as possible. And so we're real serious about that. I'm a little new to that game, but I'm real familiar with Starbucks app. I'm a complete Starbucks addict. And so if you were to look at, top users of Starbucks apps, I'm somewhere on that list. And it's a great app. It's just really easy to use, and it does what I want it to do. And I think that's the key, is find out what the customers want from you and then deliver it in the best way possible. That's where we're going.
I asked you two guys the same question, but so is there anything in particular for younger people? Like we had a conversation earlier today, we're tired of talking about millennials and the whole conversation about millennials, when in fact they're just probably younger people. But is there anything in particular that you guys do for younger people?
Well, real young people, we still do a play area. So that's not really your question, but when I think of young people, that's where I go, and we're really one of the only QSRs still doing that. So we're trying to figure out what's a more creative way to attract truly young people, but young moms appreciate that, and they would fall in that category. So that would be probably my answer to that quickly.
So Gabby, what about you with the customer shift? What about Whole Foods?
Well, like you said, everyone needs to eat, and there's such an emphasis now. I mean, there always been, but lately on good, healthy, clean foods. And our culture at Whole Foods is one of empowerment. So we empower our team members to give the best service they can. So we're very invested in taking care of our team members, having that great service. We've been experimenting over the last, 5 years with in-store beer, wine bar, tap rooms we like to call them. The first one was in Santa Rosa, which is not too far from here, so you guys could all go. And the idea was to create sort of a destination inside a store that wasn't about food. It still is about food, and just give people a place to go. So that's one thing we've been experimenting in, kind of more sort of innovative coffee bars so that people can get a good coffee while they shop or just lounge and chat with their friends. And there was another concept that we did a few years ago that has since closed, but I really liked it, that we did a nail salon, an all-natural nail salon in one of our stores in the San Jose area. And that was really cool, and it took off. But yeah, so things that make people come and have a sense of community. There's, of course, like talks about digital, in the stores to make shopping more convenient. And then hopefully many of you have heard about the new 365 brand at Whole Foods. So it's for the younger shop, sort of targeting the younger shopper. And that's sort of really, I don't know a lot about it at all, but that's sort of another thing to sort of address the different kinds of shoppers that are developing in the country.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Warby Parker, coming at it from a completely different direction than these two guys. These guys started with bricks and mortars and had to kind of shift towards this. And you guys started from a completely different area and came in. What are you guys doing to address this shift, or have you always?
Yeah, so I think that's the root of the answer to this question, is people fell in love with Warby Parker originally online. So this was never a business when the four founders started it 5 years ago that was intended to have a bricks and mortar retail strategy, ever. So for the first 2.5 years, the way that you could experience the Warby Parker brand was online, and by getting your home try-on. Has anybody ever gotten a home try-on? Got like three or four folks. Raise your hand, come on, be proud. So the home try-on program was that you can, for free, get, and you still can, 5 pairs of glasses in the mail, try them on at home, have a fashion show for your spouse. You then send them back free of charge, go online, upload your prescription, and you receive your glasses in the mail. So for 2.5 years, that was the experience. And then we started to have customers write in and call in and ask whether there was a place to go to see all the glasses. They wanted more than 5, and they wanted to have that experience in a different way. So Neil Blumenthal, one of our founders, started to have random customers over to his apartment in New York City and invite them to his dining room table, true story, and would lay out all the glasses, all the SKUs on the dining room table. And he would start to just, engage with customers in that manner. And he started to get so flooded with customers in his apartment that we then said, well, you know, we've got this small office in the Puck building in Manhattan, and so why don't we put together a little showroom? So cobbled together some shelves, put our SKUs all up on shelves in our office, and then people started to flood our showroom in the same way they had flooded his dining room. And so after about 6 to 9 months, what we started to see is that we kept experimenting, just piloting fun ideas in retail, the dining room, the showroom. We purchased a yellow school bus in rural Virginia, ripped all the seats out, outfitted it with shelves on the insides, beautiful carpet, some mahogany, some maps, and drove it around the country for 9 months selling glasses. So this was this experimental nature of, you know, sort of slowly finding our way organically in retail was really how customers started to experience the brand, and that was all part of feeling like they were seeing something special. So what are we doing to address the customer shift? To answer the question is really listening to the customer, just responding to what our customers are asking for. And to that point, I mentioned, you know, one of the nuggets I wanted to leave you with today was the stores in that way. Now we have 14 stores in major urban markets around the country. And we're using those stores the same way we use Neil's dining room table, same way we use the office showroom and the school bus as learning labs. Watching the customer come in and see and feel and experience this brand in the same way that they did for 2.5 years, just online and just by getting that little box in the mail. And that 360-degree, you know, opportunity for us is really how we're addressing the customer shift.
Awesome. Everybody, Warby Parker. Good job. Wow, great stories. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody when you talk about brands, there's always that thing, you know, what is so special about the brand? And sometimes customers don't know what it is, and sometimes they do. But we like to call it like the secret sauce. You know, like what's the secret sauce of that brand? So what do you guys think the secret sauce of your awesome brands is? And since you were so good just last time, why don't you kick it off? You only get a half hour, though.
I'm not giving that away, Lee. I'll offer a couple of other nuggets. So, you know, the biggest two teams in Warby Parker's corporate headquarters are the customer experience team and the technology team. There's a lot of press out there that speaks to the Warby Parker of ... You know, who's doing sort of online brand building for X type of product. But what I think I always see missing in sort of using that phrase a little bit flippantly is that really, you know, behind the scenes of a very traditional, you know, retail experience, we're crafting our retail stores after libraries, we're using very simple, you know, fixtures and programming within the stores. They're not fancy and they're not high tech, they're very high touch, not so much high tech. But the company itself is a technology company. So I think people forget that when they say, you know, this is the Warby Parker of, because I'm not sure I see necessarily that, you know, behind the scenes of all that is what we've invested in building, you know, everything from scratch. All of our own platforms, all of our own systems, all of our own mobile point of sale applications, which we actually call the mobile point of everything. Because actually it's not just a point of sale. You can also be signed in for your optometrist appointment. You can schedule to have your, you know, you can pull up your bookmark, which is your list that you've built online of your 5 frames that you want. And so that investment in those teams, you know, they're at the corporate headquarters behind the scenes are the foundation of this company. And I think that's not something that is given, you know, enough visibility when you sort of talk about what the model really is.
Secret sauce?
Well, Walter Robb, our co-CEO, was on Kramer, right? Is that what it's called? And those guys love to like banter. And Walter said, our secret sauce is our team members. And so I think it comes out in so many ways that our team members, like I said before, it's like they're super empowered. I haven't interviewed for a job at Whole Foods since 1999. I've always just like created my own job and my own path, and I think that everyone at Whole Foods can do that. you know, if I had this really awesome fried chicken recipe, I could bring it to the store and they could test it and they could actually sell it in that store, but not sell it in the store 5 miles from here. So I think that the team member base, the culture of Whole Foods is the team model, and of course empowering them to, you know, be the best people that they can be. And I think, you know, that really, to me, like separates us from a lot of other grocers, especially in the time where there's so much competition. Like everyone's got their like organic and natural food line or food store or brand. And that's one thing that I feel like I never want Whole Foods to lose, and that's the thing that will always be something that is like our legacy.
Somebody you opened a store in our neighborhood, and somebody always tells this jar of pickles story. Did I tell you that story?
I don't know, maybe.
So she goes shopping at Whole Foods for the first time, and she's looking at some pickles, and one of your employees comes up and says, "What kind of pickle are you looking for?" And she talks about it. And he opens the jar and says, "Try one of these." And she tried one of these. She goes, "No, that's not exactly right." So he opened another one. She tried one of these. And went through 4 jars. And she goes, "Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for." He closed it and put a sign on and said, "Okay, it's yours.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot." And would that be like an empowerment type of thing?
Absolutely,
Because she told that story like 1,000 times, and then everybody went to Whole Foods.
Right. No, if you wanted to sample anything in our store, like if the produce department especially, like, what does this taste like? And they will get out their knives and they'll cut it up for you and they'll sample it. And then everyone wants a free food, so they're like looking and they're like, "Oh, you want some too?" And this is a really great Gala apple. It's from Washington. It's organic. This farm has been in the family for 100 years, and they'll tell you the story. And we can tell you those stories about your food. And I don't know if everyone can do that. I don't know if everyone can tell you that this meat is, these chickens are level 4. They come from Katati, California. They don't get this. They don't get this. They're allowed to have, free range and, love and, that old Portlandia episode, right? So it's definitely like that. It can be. And I think it really makes people like me, who've been there for a really long time, want to stay there because you feel like you're really making a difference to customers. And and back in the day, I've pulled open many a bag of tortilla chips and then brought it to behind the counter, and then everyone else can eat it. But yeah, so it's been, it's true. I think that's one of the empowerment parts. And we put a lot of training into our team members. It's, even the people at the corporate office, they go to a store, they go through a new member orientation. There's all kinds of trainings and conscious capitalism, for example, sort of snippets that they get in the store. There's huddles, there's, they stretch, they do all these things. So it's really important to us for everyone to get that, drink the Kool-Aid at an early age.
Secret sauce.
Secret sauce. Chick-fil-A. So it's interesting. We're in the process right now of entering a lot of
literal sauce, by the way.
Yeah, right.
There is a Chick-fil-A sauce.
I'm glad you took that one.
Is it that smiling?
No. There really is. But anyway, I've been asked this question quite a bit, and I think right now there's perceptions of Chick-fil-A as a brand. What is it really about? What do you stand for? What do you not stand for? And there's a lot of that out there, and so I think there's a lot of misperceptions, quite honestly, about the secret sauce of Chick-fil-A. But I would tell you that the secret sauce of Chick-fil-A is our franchise agreement. And we're atypical relative to how we do our franchise selection process and how we actually run the business. But the secret sauce of Chick-fil-A is the local operator. It's the local franchisee who gets that one opportunity. We don't franchise the business to a market. We don't do rapid expansion that way. It's an individual selection to become a franchisee, and that person basically runs the business in that trade area. We're getting ready to open up our first location in Manhattan, and I think the most excitement about Manhattan is Oscar, the gentleman that's going to run that business, because the guy's awesome. And Manhattan for Chick-fil-A, a little southern company started in Hayfield, Georgia, now in Manhattan, is a big deal, but we're really excited about Oscar because we know he's going to connect with those customers. He's going to make great food. He's going to provide great service, and hopefully make a lot of money. And so that really is the secret sauce. It's a no capital risk agreement with a franchisee. Chick-fil-A capitalizes everything. the building, the lease, the equipment, signage, everything. We provide it all. There's a $5,000 deposit for a franchisee to get involved with that process. There's no capital risk.
Bateman, we should open a couple of those.
It's the truth. And so we get about 30,000 applications a year for that opportunity.
30,000, really?
That's right.
Wow.
And
so is there a screening process then as well?
Well, there's you know.
I'm just saying.
Are you in the market?
No, I don't know, maybe. But Chris?
It's pretty intense because there's so many, and to try to find the right person for the right market. Because it's not just about opening a Chick-fil-A, it's about opening a Chick-fil-A in Seattle, or opening a Chick-fil-A in Miami or Atlanta. It's that intense, and so a lot of effort goes into selecting the right business person to do that, and then the way they make money and the way they can make a living with Chick-fil-A is what I think the secret sauce is.
Awesome, good stuff. Well, we spent a lot of time, or enough time today, talking about digital. What we call DRI, digital retail technology. Yeah, whatever you can. So we spent a lot of time talking about digital retail technology. So I want to ask each one of you guys too, like, how do you do that? Like, where do you start? Have you done it? Is there anything that you've experienced that's been successful? How do you approach digital retail technology?
It is difficult, and because you want to be hot, and so we have to find a way to connect to customers digitally where they can actually engage with the restaurant. We have a new program, we call it A-List. It's a customer loyalty program where they connect with us through their app, and they can. We get a lot of customer information that way, which is wonderful. We know what they like, we know what their preferences are, we can do special things for them. But we're trying to build that platform right now. So I'd say digitally for us, it's really more around that mobile app I referenced earlier, trying to help us connect with customers as they want to be connected with and as they want to share information with us. And that's how we're doing that.
So anything whiz bang in the stores? Any kind of digital jukeboxes?
We've got all kind of ideas. Our innovation group, which is really taking a new direction right now, really focused on the in-store experience, is considering a lot of things. But being a development guy, we want to make sure those ideas are really vetted out and really proven out before we start putting it in the restaurant. That creates all kind of chaos. But it's a big focus for us. For sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, we're doing some small things. I think, back in 2006, 2007, we did a lot of TV screens, like monitors that would show video on a loop. And, the content for that is really challenging, although there's plenty of companies out there that wanted to give us content. And then we tried to go away from that, like, flashy kind of stuff when the market crashed, and we started doing really low tech. And so now we have a new CIO, and who's been, really trying to get the company up on some new things. So one thing that we're doing is, you might see in some of your stores, is like ordering for sandwiches and burrito, like a kiosk ordering. And so that's being tested and rolled out to a lot of stores. And that we have a really good app. It doesn't have like in-store stuff, but I'm sure that's on the docket. Can't really speak to that. And speed of checkout is always a concern. We did a fun project with you guys about some things that we could do to integrate the app. So those are some things down the road that we're looking at. One was improving all the Wi-Fi in our stores, so that's a big one for us too. But yeah, I think we want to keep in mind that our customers want to come in for an experience, and it might not be a digital experience. And I think everyone is in agreement that we want to be really careful to make sure that we make the right decisions.
Chris and I were in a store in Marietta, Georgia, I think. It's like kind of northwest, and I forget the name. You probably know, but all kinds of digital stuff in there, like digital end caps and little maps. And did any of that stuff work?
So, It might. So one great thing about Whole Foods and another challenging thing about Whole Foods is that we're all decentralized. So it's the 9 regions, and so a lot of decisions are made on a regional level, and a lot of decisions are made on a global level. So that might have been something that was great for the Georgia area, and then they just didn't roll it out because it's really about each region or each store sort of figuring out what their customer wants. I forgot to mention that there's some basic things that we also have, like if you go in the whole body department, they can look up all of your problems and diseases on a little iPad, and they can print out something for you. They can do that. But yeah, I think that it's really been we're trying to be very careful about what we do, so we're not intimidating people. We are working in the store in Santa Clara, and we're working on sort of a mobile ordering system, which I think would be really key for that demographic in that area of California.
I will say that the store in our neighborhood, it took a while because they have kiosks where you could order sandwiches at the sandwich bar. And it took a while. Everybody would go to the sandwich bar, and they would have to direct them to the kiosk.
Right.
But now that's all anybody ever
So now everyone figures that out. Yeah, and I think that was one of the first stores that they did that. And so one thing we're experimenting in terms of that is like, where is the kiosk placed? And how, if you're going to go to the burrito and the sandwich bar, how do you order from there? Is it intuitive that you're going to go to this place to order? And we want to show the freshness of the product that's being made right then and there, but also not have it behind the wall. So it's, there's a lot of thought processes that go through that. And of course, Whole Foods is all about innovation, and someone will try something and then they'll have a lot of followers. So
I always thought the airlines did a great job with the DRI, right? They got us all to use the kiosks, and there's still people that are standing there today and, press this button and that button, and they just walk you through the whole thing. In the meantime, they reduced their staff in half and got rid of a lot of annoyed customers as well. So last but not least, DRI, which is digital retail integration.
Thank you.
Sure. DRI.
Yeah, splinged out. So I think this is very industry specific because, eyeglasses are thousands of years old, and I've just described how our stores, when you walk into them, is, it's an experience that's a very low-tech experience. I mean, you're walking into a beautiful place that's programmed for your journey around the space, trying on glasses, looking into the mirror, getting a tip from your friend, getting some help from a retail advisor, checking in for your optometrist appointment, getting some help with an adjustment. And this journey throughout the store should not be driven, it should be driving the experience, and technology should not be creating an experience. Technology should be supporting an experience, and that's a really different nuance. So I would say for us, we want the technology to really go away. I mean, we have sophisticated technology that our retail advisors are using right there on one little iPad mini, and it's extraordinarily sophisticated underneath of that. But what that should do is just be enabling the customer to do all the things they want to do throughout their journey. And, and that should be something that, whether they end up engaging with technology or not, is really, I think for us is still something that's very experimental. So I don't mean to sort of burst the bubble there on that one, but that may be a surprise, to some of you, sort of the way that I answered that question. But from a design standpoint, that's, I think that's really the essence of the way we see technology and the experience sort of meshing.
So it's a little like Malcolm Gladwell, right? With the high tech, high touch, right? So you're high tech on one end, which is mostly online, and then high touch in the store. It's kind of awesome. Okay, like a big question for you guys, and we're going to start with you, John. But where do you guys see growth coming from over the next few years? Which is, the Wall Street question, right? These people may be investors.
Well, when I think of growth, I like to start with what is existing, and how can we help our existing restaurants grow healthy. And so that's going to come through primarily menu. What are the preferences for our menu that are changing, that we need to evolve with? What do we need to keep the same that, people would kill us if we took off the menu? I don't know if many of you are Chick-fil-A fans, but we used to have a product called carrot raisin salad. And it used to be a really popular product. And it was really popular for about 3 customers a day. And we finally got rid of it, and it was like a revolt. And so we had to, but we have to understand you have to do that. You have to go through that process. We resisted for so long to take anything off the menu because we knew that there were those loyal customers that have been eating that product forever, and we were going to really hear about it. But we've now moved more toward more product change to adjust with the reality of customer preferences. And that's going to continue to grow for us because of where we're going from a market expansion. The other piece for us is service, and I'm sure you've noticed, we've certainly noticed, that the other brands are catching on. And they are really upping their game on the service side. And I could name all the players, and I've experienced a really renewed focus on service. We've been kind of known for service, but we know we're going to have to take it to another level. And so our service innovation team is really hard at work with figuring out how do customers want to order, how do they want to receive their food, how do they want their food provided for them, refreshing beverages, all those things, and huge efforts going underway for us. So that's one way I would define growth. The other part of that question for me is around where our customers live and where are they going to be living. And we were one of those brands that really took advantage and were able to grow quickly following the suburban expansion, the advent of the lifestyle center. And we, the Lowe's, the gentleman from Lowe's is here, and Home Depot's and Target's, and there was just this explosion of those types of developments in the 90s and the early turn of the century. And we could just line up deals like that. And that's going away. And the reality of suburban expansion is not what it was. And so people are starting to want to be in higher density, more urban environments. And that doesn't necessarily mean downtown. It just means more of a high density type of a community where those types of opportunities are more rare. So growth for us is going to come in not just having kind of that prototype expansion of a freestanding restaurant. It's going to come in the form of still having that because we know there's still an opportunity there, but also inline locations with end caps. Figure out an urban model that works for us. We've got several locations now in Chicago, like I said, we're going to open in Manhattan, a couple in downtown DC, but we see that as a real opportunity for growth. And then the other piece for us is figuring out smaller parcel opportunities. We love 1.1 acres with 65 parks. Love it. It's easy. We can do it all day. But we're in just outside of LA, and it's 2/3 of an acre, and it's real tight, and we know we can be there and make a business of it. What should that be? Should it be a drive-through only? Should it be a hybrid concept? And we're really hard at work at that because we believe that's where our growth is going to come from.
Interesting. So really moving with the demographic, because a lot of the demographics also moving back into cities now.
Yeah, we definitely see the suburban sprawl wanting to come back in, and we've had a lot of research that shows that to be true.
The suburban ghetto.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Your turn.
Okay. So I'll tell a quick story. I promise I have a point. There's a clock here, so I'll time myself. So when we were planning on our first store ever in Soho in Manhattan at 121 Green Street, planning the turnover calendar, so the turnover from construction to the operations team. We're all sitting around the table as a bunch of very fresh new folks who were doing this. We had a couple of years of experience between us, in retail. And so we were sort of going day by day. And when we had the calendar mapped out, I said, well, guys, I don't see any time that's mapped in here for dress rehearsals. And so everyone sort of stared at me and were like, what do you mean dress rehearsals? I mean, what does that mean? What do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? And who is this, by the way, who just joined the company, 5 months ago, talking about dress rehearsals? So in the military, are there any other veterans in the room? Okay. So in the military, no. the dress rehearsal is the golden staple that lets you know if you're ready to accomplish the mission that you've spent 1 week, 1 month, 1 year planning. Whether it's a tiny little color guard presentation and where those flags are placed, or whether it's some major, battalion level operation in a deployed environment. And the dress rehearsal is the moment where you take all of the, everything that's real life about what that scenario is going to be, and you test whether or not you're ready. So everyone sort of looked at me strangely, and I said, well, obviously we should do dress rehearsals in the store with the advisors. They should walk through all of the scenarios they're going to be provided when a customer walks in the door. And then we should see if they're ready, and whether and whether the store is functioning right, and then we should test, everything to make sure. And so this was this really foreign concept, in this industry, and maybe some of them had experienced it sort of in other ways for training or practice or whatever. But in the way I was describing, this was something that's new. And now Warby Parker has, and I don't think even anyone, there's only a few of us that remember that moment 3 years ago, but now dress, which occurs for 48 hours before the stores open, is this staple of the Warby Parker training of our advisors. And what it enables us to do is it enables us to not only be training the advisors, but also before that store is even opening, and as we're thinking about the next 5 or 10 stores that are going to open, it's enabling us to test every path the customer is going to take throughout that store, every service they're going to want, every product they might want to touch, and isolate it in a controlled environment where we're not dealing with everything of the day-to-day sort of rush and operations. And it allows us to be analytical in a physical space in a way that is natural for all of us in a web-based environment online. Google Analytics for any small business is like, you wouldn't even question that. But in a physical space, it's harder to take that same analytical approach. The answer to your question about growth is to continue to use the rigor of that kind of analysis and of that kind of approach, the physical spaces and the online spaces that we're looking at, to be able to ensure that that blended retail experience and that blended sort of 360-degree experience is what the customer is having at all times. And anytime we're seeing a deviation from that, take a quick step back and ask ourselves why. So we're not expecting, this massive explosive growth next year. Most people are surprised to hear I'm planning a modest 12 to 15 stores after opening 12 stores this year. So, that's really part of the reason why. So I think our growth will come from our ability to continue to be diligent in this way.
Super. Did you say golden staple?
Yeah, I think I did.
So the golden staple, so that's a concept that like holding everything together?
It's kind of my figure of speech, but I like where you're going with it.
Okay, awesome. Growth.
Well, I don't have an army deployment strategy. But what I said earlier, so first of all, the growth for us is, we've promised Wall Street we're going to have 1,200 stores, and so we're always working to that. We're looking at what areas of the country are, can support more Whole Foods, small markets and bigger markets. We have the 365 store. It's like, no one can talk about it. And that is going to be sort of a new format for us, and that'll be additional growth for us. So we're talking, smaller format stores, very basic, lots of value, featuring our 365 brand. There's a difference between 365 and 365 now. And so really trying to get find some new consumers for Whole Foods. And in the marketplace, everyone has their organic, everyone's buying organic. Everyone's buying sustainable. You hear sustainable a lot. And what does that really mean to other companies besides Whole Foods? So Whole Foods has a big story to tell. We're talking about animal compassion programs where all of the meat that we sell in both of our meat departments and in our prepared foods is all rated in the global animal compassion practice. There's like all these points that you can get. Seafood sustainability, we have stories. We work with select farming, agriculture farms that we do a lot of testing, and we work with them as partners. Farming as well. so much of going to a grocery store is based on that fresh product that you get at the beginning of the shop, and really telling the story about Cape Bay Farms and how they grow their tomatoes, and really distinguishing ourselves in terms of that story. So that's what we hope people will keep coming back for. They talk about the younger people, like dare I say millennials, that they really want to shop with a company that they feel a connection with and has some values that align with theirs. So, we're hoping that, we don't hope, but we know that our story is about where the food comes from, the goodwill that we do with the Whole Planet Foundation, Whole Kids Foundations. I could go on and on with all of the foundations that we have. So distinguishing us in that, and hopefully that will continue to grow our business, especially with all sort of the new customers that are coming in. Quality. I don't think that you can go to Whole Foods and not find quality. I know that people will debate that. But I go to the farmer's market and you get high quality food, but I buy it from the same farmers at Whole Foods, and I think the food at Whole Foods lasts longer. I think that it's selected for the high quality. Usually the farmer's markets are, don't tell anyone I told you this, the farmer's markets are like where the cull produce comes from for the farm. So it's really about making it that experience and really getting people to really care about what they put in their bodies, feed their children, what products that they use, what they're throwing in the landfill.
So do you really think that Whole Foods could have 1,200 stores? Is that possible?
Well, that's what we committed to, Lee. So yes, I believe that it's possible. We are expanding a lot in Canada. There's going to be a store in Alberta, which I find fascinating. We have a handful of stores in the UK, including one in Scotland. So I do think that international could be something that we will be looking more at.
There's none in Stockholm, I'll tell you right now.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
But I would think that, we've done really well in Canada. One of our highest volume stores is in Vancouver, West Vancouver. So, I think there's opportunities where we have just slowly started to explore. I would love to have one in Alaska so that I could go to Alaska and have a reason to go there. We have, I think, 5 in Hawaii. So that's
okay.
that's my sale. That's
and
my
365.
365.
Right, which we can't talk about.
No, you can't talk about it.
You can't talk about Fight Club either. You see that.
That's the first rule.
Okay, so one.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I know that 4 minutes just evaporated there. I saw that, Michael. So so one wrap-up question. Could you guys just tell us your one absolute golden moment with the brand that you work with, where you went, man, I love working here. So that one moment, take it away.
There's not just one. We have, I think my moment is when each week we publish basically a sort of list of top 10 customer moments where customers have written in, handwritten letters, emails of thanks, and every story that's in that, at the end of each week that's in that is just riveting to read. It's about our advisors empowered to make amazing choices to make the customer's life much easier in that day. And so when I read those through each week is when I'm like, this is a really, really special group of people, and team that I have a lot of respect for and are building a great brand for the ages.
Oh, so you have it every week.
Every week. Yeah, I couldn't say one moment.
John?
So you didn't ask us this question earlier, so I'm reeling in my head here, but
it was an impromptu moment.
I would tell you what's coming to my mind is I've been at Chick-fil-A just a few years, and Truett Cathy came to my office and he said, "Hey John, I want you to drive me somewhere." So I spent the next 3 hours with Truett Cathy, and most of it driving, so most of it just talking with him, but I also heard him speak, and I just got to see the heart of a man that came out of nothing and had an idea and put the right people around him and created a brand that we just still can't believe. It's a piece of chicken, 2 pickles, and a bun. It's the truth.
It could happen to you.
That's what it is.
Egg salad. That's the thing.
That's the nugget.
But really getting to see the heart of a man who loved people, wanted to serve people, and and was a real inspiration. So I'd say that was my moment.
Awesome.
Everyone always tells me, like, oh, it must be so awesome to work for Whole Foods. And I'm like, I guess so. I've been there for 21 years. And my husband's been with Whole Foods for over 25 years. He started in a small, tiny store in Brookline, Massachusetts, stacking produce when it was Bread and Circus. And so I think both of us, like, the one moment that I think is not only meeting my husband, but also, like, you know, I have a really great relationship with Walter Robb, our co-CEO, and I don't really see him that often anymore. He's always on a plane. But whenever I see him, it's like seeing like a mentor or like your dad. Like he's so gracious and is always so generous with his ideas. Not always the greatest ideas, or they're always great ideas, excuse me. They are great ideas.
That was recorded.
Thank you, that is off the record, okay? But you know, he always has a word of encouragement and is always really positive and really cares about the company. And whenever I see him, that's just such a great moment for me when I just get that, like, you know, one-on-one time with any of the sort of executive team there. And that's just makes you feel like you're important.
All right, you guys, I want to thank you very much. Very awesome.
Thank you guys so much for